Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. Today we're going to talk about potty training, specifically focused on readiness. So what are those readiness signs to be looking for your kiddos and when to make that transition to underwear? My name is Lauren. I am the Family Support Specialist with Child Care Answers. So in my role, I support families through workshops, one-on-one support, anywhere from breastfeeding to biting to potty training and anywhere in between, and then help families navigate the child care system, including that transition to kindergarten. I am a mom of two. I have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, and then I have experience working in the classroom as a toddler teacher. So not only have I potty trained my kiddos, I have potty trained many, many, many other children as well. So Child Care Answers is part of a larger network of resource and referral agencies. So we service Marion, Hendricks, and Hamilton counties, but there is an agency that services every county in Indiana. Feel free to connect with me, and then I can refer you off to your agency if you are not in Hamilton, Hendricks, or Marion. But we all do roughly the same things. So we all support families with workshops, finding childcare, and then one-on-one support. So after today's session, if you want to connect with me or another specialist regarding your potty training journey and your child specifically, feel free to reach out to me. I will put my email up at the very end again. And then I can either connect with you one-on-one, or I can refer you off to the specialist who can connect with you. Additionally, Child Care Answers is active on social media. We're on all social media platforms. We just launched our TikTok account not that long ago. It's really awesome. Follow us on TikTok. And then we do put all of our workshops on YouTube. So this session will be placed on YouTube within the next week or so. And there is an older version of this, as well as lots of other workshops on our website right now. That link directly to our potty training page on our website is on the page. It's childcareanswers.org/resources/potty-training. Or you can just scan the QR code. It will take you right to our potty training webpage with tons and tons of resources. Again, more resources on readiness, how to navigate toileting troubles, helping your child achieve nighttime dryness, and then potty training children with special needs. So all of that is there, as well as links to all of our recorded workshops on potty training. So today we are going to talk about readiness signs, specifically on things to look for and know when your child is ready to make that leap to underwear. We're going to talk about typical readiness. What is typical for potty training? What should I be expecting of my child, including those age ranges, dependent on kind of our expectations of wiping, of nighttime dryness, of switching to underwear, all of that. What it means to be potty trained. We throw out this term potty training all the time, but like, what does that truly mean? And how do I know if my child has achieved potty training? Like, are they potty trained? I don't know. And when should I expect that? And lastly, what your role is in potty training your child. Because we can't just expect our child to do all of that. We really need to take the lead on that journey and help our child through that process. So what is their role and what is your role in toileting? So with that, I just wanted to start with kind of talking about toileting as a process. Mastery takes time. There is a lot involved in toileting. It's not just as simple as your child sitting on the potty and eliminating. There is a lot that goes into toileting before we ever switch our child to underwear. And there's a lot that goes on after we switch our child to underwear. So when it comes to toileting, it's really about the whole body. So a child has to have that bodily sensation to feel full, and then have a bowel movement or pee. So they have to have that body sensation to say like, oh, I'm feeling full and now I need to eliminate. That feeling of fullness begins to set in between 12 and 18 months. That is when children begin to feel that feeling of fullness, and then are more aware of their need to use the restroom. That doesn't mean that they're ready to switch to underwear and can do it in a potty, or that they can wait to eliminate. They're just starting at that point to feel that feeling of fullness. Around this time, our children are also typically experiencing some discomfort. So in order for our child to be ready to begin the toileting process, they have to have some level of discomfort. If they don't care that their diaper is wet or soiled, then they're not ready to be potty trained. They need to feel that discomfort to be motivated to stay dry. So typically between the ages of 12 and 18 months, our child is going to begin showing some signs of discomfort. But again, that's going to, happen over time. They might start removing their diaper, resist being diapered, all of that. Additionally, our child has to have a sense of body awareness, meaning they know what their body parts are, they're curious about their body, and they have some words to name their body parts. Around age 2, children become very curious about their body, especially their private parts. They're learning the names for them. They're curious about my parts versus your parts. And that can be a great motivator to begin having those conversations about toileting, because those parts are important for the toileting process. It's also important to start creating, you're using real names for those parts so that your child can label their body parts, but other people understand what they're talking about as well. And then this is where things get a little bit more complex. So children have to have that body awareness. They also have to have the cognitive capacity to make plans and carry them out. Meaning I have to be able to solve problems and achieve more complex thinking in order to be ready for the toileting process. So I need to be able to feel full, but I also need to be able to wait. So that feeling of fullness hits, I get that trigger in my mind that says, ooh, I need to go to the bathroom. I have the physical capacity to wait, and then I can make a plan and carry it out of how do I get to the bathroom? How do I pull down my pants? How do I get onto the toilet? And then how do I eliminate onto the toilet? So that involves some more complex thinking skills that take a little bit longer to develop. So although our children can show discomfort with toileting at 12 to 18 months, and they can feel that feeling of fullness, they have to have all of those other things in order to be ready to transition to underwear. So with that being said, I'm going to quiz you a little bit. So knowing that toileting is a process, it takes time. It really depends on physical readiness, but also behavioral readiness. What age do you think that children typically move to undies and have some level of independence with toileting? It's an age range. So between what ages do you think that happens? And again, this is going to be an age range because every child's different. So most children will move to undies and show some level of independence between the ages of 3 to 4 is one answer. 18 to 36 months is another answer. The answer is ages 2 to 4. So children between the ages of 2 and 4 are ready to transition to undies if they show the signs of readiness. So that is our age range that we're looking at. Some kids are ready very early. Some it takes a little bit longer. It is very dependent on their development, both physically and behaviorally. My kiddos were both in undies by the age of 2.5. My son was night trained at 2.5, which is very unusual, but he was very, very motivated. Where in my classroom, I had kiddos that were moving to underwear just after their 2nd birthday, and some that weren't moving to underwear until right when they were transitioning out of my classroom at age 3. And then we have a comment in the chat that my daughter just won't say that she needs to go. Yeah, that level of independence to recognize on their own and then initiate toileting often takes a little bit longer. Yep. She's 3 and interested. Yeah. So you need to give her that boost, right? And those reminders. I love when we're used to giving kiddos reminders to go to the bathroom, and then that independence hits and that ability to do things on their own. And they're like, I don't need to go. And you're used to giving them reminders, and they're kind of pushing back and letting go of that control and being like, okay, knowing that accidents might happen, but they need to recognize that on their own. That's a hard step. Yep. All right. So our next quiz question. So we know when to make that transition to undies. But again, knowing that toileting is a process, when can children expect to begin the process of toileting? When can we start that process with kiddos? Around what age? Yeah, so between ages of 2 and 4, when they're ready, when they show that readiness cues. Yeah. So again, toileting is a process, right? So there's a lot that we do before we ever transition a kiddo to undies. And so, yeah, we have a comment in the chat that says 18 months or even younger, washing hands, allowing them to assist in the toileting process. That's exactly right. So between the ages of 15 and 18 months, most kids are ready to start that process. So practice washing hands, having them assist in the toileting and diapering process, talking about body parts, developing language around toileting, and then practice sitting on the potty. So between the ages of 15 and 18 months, once children are walking well, they're walking unassisted, which typically happens around that time frame. You can begin having your child practice sitting on the potty at every diaper change, making it fun and exciting, and really building interest around toileting. Because like I mentioned earlier, if a child isn't interested in toileting, it's not the right time to start this process. So you're really working on beginning that process of building interest. This can also mean reading books about going to the potty, watching TV episodes about potty training. Daniel Tiger is my personal favorite. I'm pretty sure Daniel Tiger potty trained both of my children. He's great. He has songs that go with toileting, so you can incorporate those songs into your routine. You can invite your child to watch you use the restroom and just begin talking about the process. Children are not ready to switch to underwear at this age, but they can be involved in the process of toileting. Awesome. And then last but not least, last question is nighttime dryness. So we've talked about when to transition to undies, when we can start the process of building interest in toileting. But at what age should I expect my child to stay dry at night? So nap time and nighttime. What is the typical range of readiness at nighttime? Yes, Daniel Tiger is magic. So between the ages of 7 and 8. That is a great guess. So this is a big age range. So anywhere between the ages of 3 and 7 is typical for nighttime dryness. So you're right there. Some kiddos achieve it early. Some kiddos, it takes them a really long time to develop nighttime dryness. I will have a slide at the end on nighttime dryness, but we have a whole other workshop specifically designed for families who have questions about how to achieve nighttime dryness. My son, again, was nighttime trained at 2.5, which is not typical. My daughter, who was a very heavy wetter and a hard sleeper, she did not transition fully to nighttime trained until she was about 4.5. We were still waking her at night, once at night to go to the bathroom so that she didn't wet the bed. And we started that when she was about 3. So we switched her to undies, but we still woke her every night to go to the bathroom. Awesome. So here are the readiness signs for all children. And I say all children because even children with special needs, these are the same readiness signs. But it's important to note that this isn't dependent on age. These are the signs that we look for regardless of whether our child is 2 or 4, and anywhere in between. These are the things that I'm looking for as a parent to see if it's time to make that transition to underwear. So we've built interest, we've practiced sitting on the potty, we've done all of that. Toileting is part of our routine. But this is when I start to notice if my child's ready to make that transition to true potty training when we transition to underwear. And you want to make sure that your child has a majority of these readiness signs. They don't have to have all of them, but the majority. The things that I really look for is interest. I care. I don't like to be wet. I'm interested in the potty. I want to wear undies. I have some level of motivation. I care when I soil myself. So I'm wanting to take off my diaper, or if I spill something on my clothes, I want to change them. I am staying dry for periods of time. So that might mean after nap, I'm waking up dry, or at diaper changes, I'm dry, so that I'm holding my urine for a little bit longer, that they're not wet at every single diaper change. There's some regularity in their bowel movements and some predictability, like they poop every day after a lunch or whatever it may be. And then they have the physical capacity to be able to sit on the potty, to go get to the bathroom, and to be able to pull their pants down, possibly with assistance. And then they can follow some simple directions. It's important for them to be able to follow directions of like pull down your pants or go to the bathroom or sit on the toilet. So these are the things that I'm looking for to know that it's time to make that switch. And so when we look at making the switch to underwear, I think it's important to note what my role is as mom and what my child's role is in the toileting process. So my role is to look for those signs of readiness, right? I need to be aware of when my child is showing those signs, because typically children have a window of opportunity. There is a window that I'm looking for when those signs appear. And if we wait too long, that window disappears, and then we have to wait for it to emerge again. So if we miss that window, it actually does delay toileting. So it's better to start on the earlier end of things than the later end of things, because then it becomes a habit and they just don't really care about the toileting process. My role is also to give my child the words to use for their body parts, for urine, for poop, for all of that. Ideally using the proper words. So using the words penis and vagina, using the words poop and pee, or whatever your family decides to use, but as proper words as possible so that everyone that cares for your child knows what they're talking about. And then offering your child the right tools. So whether this means a potty seat that's on the floor or a potty seat that's attached to the toilet, whatever that might be for your family, of giving them the tools that fits that need, whether it's a step stool or undies that they can pull up and down, or some loose fitting pants. I personally love Crocs when it comes to transitioning to the toilet, because if my kid has an accident, I can rinse them off and wash them really, really easily. And then they haven't ruined a pair of shoes. So that is one of my tools that I always have available. And then always a step stool in some way for my child to sit on the toilet without feeling like they're going to fall in. And then setting up that environment to support toileting. So thinking about the physical space. Have I removed barriers in the way for my child to go to the bathroom? Have I taken off the door locks or removed baby gates so that they can physically get to the toilet? Have I put things into the bathroom to entertain them while they're waiting for their poop to come out? Have I set up that environment for them to be successful? And then your child's role is really to be an active participant. Again, they have to be motivated. They have to be intrinsically motivated. That means that inside of them, they want to be potty trained. There are ways to externally motivate them through rewards, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that are very, very helpful. But no reward is going to replace their own internal desire to use the potty. They need to be an active participant in wearing underwear, of sitting on the potty, of eliminating. And if they're throwing tantrums and toileting is causing stress, it's not the right time. Toileting shouldn't be stressful for you or for your child. And if it is, it may be time to put toileting on the back burner and revisit it a little bit later. So what does it mean to be fully potty trained, right? So we've built interest, we've looked at the signs of readiness, we've recognized those signs and moved to underwear. What does it mean to then be fully potty trained? So when we think of the term as my child's potty trained, that really means that my child goes to the potty with a lot of independence. So for the most part, with gentle reminders, my kiddo goes to the potty with few accidents. They may need continued help with wiping or going to the bathroom in unfamiliar places, but for the most part, my child is going to the bathroom independently. For me as a mom, this is typically when we're at our wellness visits yearly at the pediatrician, and the pediatrician asks about my kids' bowel movements. Up until this point, I've known exactly when they've pooped, the consistency of their poop, and all of that, right? Because I've been changing the diaper, I've been part of the toileting process. But this is the point where the doctor starts asking, and I'm like, I have no idea how often my kid poops because I'm not part of that anymore. They do that independently. That's usually my trigger that like, oh, my kid is fully potty trained. That doesn't mean we won't have accidents. That doesn't mean necessarily that they're nighttime trained. It's really about that daytime training. So what age range is typical to consider our child potty trained? What age are we seeing most kids potty trained, between the ages of what and what? Another quiz question. Yeah, so between the ages of 4 and 6. Yep, so when they're doing things independently, it's usually between the ages of 4 and 6 when we see them potty trained. It could be earlier if our kiddo moved to underwear at 2 and was very independent. It could be a little bit later if our child wasn't ready until later or has some disabilities that prevent them from doing things independently. Wiping is very hard for kiddos because they have T-Rex arms. They're short, they can't get all the way back there. So usually for wiping, that takes a little bit longer, but most kiddos are wiping on their own and consistently using the toilet independently by the time they go off to kindergarten. So with the toileting process, it's really about building familiarity. It's watching for signs of readiness. It's prioritizing toileting and being consistent and taking that time out of your schedule to focus on toileting. Toileting isn't going to be successful if you are running a million errands the day that your child transitions to underwear. I like to do it over a long weekend when I really have that time to devote to just toileting. And I can be consistent with setting my kid every 30 minutes, wearing underwear every day, whatever that might look like. And then additionally, it's offering incentives and rewards to encourage continued success. So I need to be intrinsically motivated to eliminate on the potty, but then those external rewards help me continue to have interest in going to the bathroom. Rewards typically work best when they are immediate. So not earning stickers, and then once you have 5 stickers, then you get a reward. That can be introduced a lot later. That can be great for nighttime training. But for toileting, anything that's immediate is more beneficial. So for our family, we did 1 mini M&M for pee, 2 mini M&Ms for pooping. It wasn't a ton, but it was motivation enough for my daughter to use the toilet. My son liked the rewards, but he was very much like, I am interested in looking at my poop in the toilet when I'm done, which is kind of weird, but that's how he learned the difference between big and little. So whatever works, right? Whatever works for your kiddo. So that was his reward, was to be able to look at it, to compare it, to talk about its size, whatever. My daughter wanted an M&M. And so that was her motivator. So any sort of incentive or reward, this can be a high five, it can be an extra book, it can be singing a song after they go to the bathroom, it can be having a toileting party where you decorate the toilet with streamers and balloons, whatever works for your child. And I think that's important, is that what works for my kid may not work for yours. And just like both of my kids, every kid is different. And so what works for one doesn't work for another. And then it's time to thoroughly ditch the diapers. Other than nap time and bedtime, throw the diapers away, ditch the diapers, because even pull-ups are a glorified diaper, and they don't allow children to feel the feeling of fullness or wetness. And you want your child to be uncomfortable if they have an accident, because that's going to be a motivator for them to stay dry. So stop diapers altogether. And that works best when we're consistent, right? So like I've mentioned, accidents happen. Accidents are normal. They can happen even for a kiddo who's been independently going to the potty for a long time. My daughter will still come home from school at almost 5 and have accidents because she gets busy, and toileting isn't her top priority. She's been in underwear since she was 2, but it's something that, like, she doesn't care if she has an accident. She'd rather keep playing. And so it's one of those things that we're just like, it's fine. We'll send more underwear tomorrow. You know, you clean up your mess and throw your undies in the washer when you get home. So when it comes to accidents, it's important to stay calm and don't ever punish our child for having an accident. Punishment actually delays toileting and makes it harder for a child to become potty trained. So a great phrase to use is just, you forgot this time. Next time you'll go to the bathroom, you'll get there next time. Like, it's fine, let's clean it up. We're good. In the beginning, be prepared. I still, for my daughter, carry underwear most places that I go, just in case she has an accident. I haven't needed them in a while, but just in case, I carry them in my backpack everywhere I go. So keep an extra change of underwear and clothes handy. I love a wet bag. We cloth diapered, so we had wet bags, but now I get them for everyone as they're having a new baby. It's basically just a bag that contains any wetness. So I put soiled clothing in there. We take it to the pool and put our wet swimsuits in there. I have them in my car in case someone needs to vomit. It's just important to be prepared and have those things, because as soon as you don't have it, that's when something's going to happen. And then clean things up immediately. So clean your child up, clean the floor up, involve them in the process, but don't do it with shame. Like, oh, you peed on the floor, it's okay. You forgot, you didn't make it. Let's clean it up and let's go about our day. Because when we pay a lot of attention to it, it can be something that is a habit because they like the attention. So attention's attention to a child. So clean it up, go about your day. It's no big deal. It's fine. Accidents happen. And then when things aren't going well, this is excluding accidents because that's a normal part of the process. But when things aren't going well, like your child is refusing to go to the bathroom, or the reward isn't working, or we're starting to throw fits around going to the bathroom, or something becomes difficult, I think it's important to kind of rethink about your toileting routine. And it may be time to mix things up. It may be time to take a pause. It may be time to rethink stressors and look at what's happening in your child's setting. So I won't go into too much depth about this. You can find information on our webpage on toileting, but this QR code will take you directly to our workshop specifically targeting navigating toileting troubles. So really going into depth around what happens when there is an issue around toileting. So again, won't go into too much depth, but when there is an issue or a road bump when it comes to toileting, it's really time to kind of rethink our approach as a parent to toileting. And with that being said, regressions and resistance are normal. They happen. There is a lot that happens in a child's few short years of toileting that can lead to regressions and resistance. So anything that causes a child stress can lead to regression. So this can be transitioning to a toddler bed, leaving Passy behind, a new sibling coming, a pandemic, going to school. All of these things can disrupt toileting. It can disrupt really anything, but toileting is one of them. It can disrupt behavior, can disrupt language development, all of that. But for the sake of this, we'll talk about toileting. And so I have a picture of a butterfly here, because like a butterfly, it takes time for it to turn from a caterpillar to getting its wings and flying off and being a beautiful butterfly. And toileting takes time. So be patient. You'll get there, but give yourself grace, give your child grace, and give yourself time for children to work through this. Often if we don't focus on whatever that stressor is, and we go about our day of like accidents happen, they're fine, continuing to be consistent with toileting, our kiddos get through regressions pretty easily. If our child is putting up a big fight and refusing to even sit on the potty, then it's probably time to pause toileting for a couple of weeks or a couple of months and then starting back over again, because our child is saying, not right now. Like, I am not ready. They could have every physical sign in the world, but behaviorally and emotionally, they're not there yet. And then lastly, like I mentioned, I was going to have a slide on nighttime dryness, but this QR code, like the others, will take you directly to our webinar on achieving nighttime dryness and what that looks like. Like I mentioned before, nighttime dryness typically sets in anywhere between 3 and 7. Every kiddo is different. Every kiddo sleeps differently, feels things differently. So it's important to be patient with this process, but also you have that window of opportunity. So when your child is consistently waking up dry, maybe 3 to 5 times a week, it may be time to start that process of switching to undies, because delaying the switch to undies at night can actually make nighttime dryness take longer. So I'm more inclined to switch earlier rather than later. And many kiddos benefit from being woken once at night to go to the bathroom to help them get through until the morning, so that they're not wetting in the middle of the night or waking up at 4 a.m. because they need to go potty. And again, accidents happen. So prepare your environment. Use a waterproof sheet. Have extra bedding handy, so in the middle of the night, if you do need to change the bed, that you have what you need right there. And then don't make your child feel bad about peeing in their bed at night. So a lot of kids will wake up crying, and it'll really upset them, and just letting them know that it's okay, accidents happen, let's clean you up, and then you can go back to bed. So I'm going to end with talking about when to seek help with toileting, or how to connect with a specialist or support around toileting. So myself and the other specialists around the state can meet you one-on-one via Zoom, make it super easy for you, and talk specifically about your child's toileting. Talk about what you've done, what's working, what's not working, and help you navigate that process. Additionally, your pediatrician is available. And then if your child does have special needs, work with the therapists around goals on toileting. So when to seek help is really if you're struggling. So if your child is ready, but they're struggling to stay dry consistently, your child has a special need and typical tactics aren't working, it may be time to talk to your pediatrician about what else we can try, or talk with your therapist. If you're seeing frequent bedwetting in school agers, it's becoming very frequent, it's happening a lot. That is the time to go right to your pediatrician about what next steps are to support your school ager. Additionally, if your kiddo's over 4 and just does not have interest in toileting at all, they're like, nah, I'm good, diapers are fine. Or if you aren't on the same page as your child's teachers. All of these are kind of those areas that you say, okay, it's time to ask for help and connect, because sometimes it's a simple fix, sometimes it's just hearing things from somebody else, or sometimes there's something else going on and it's important to follow through with that. So again, I'm available, the other specialists in the state are available for consultations. but also don't hesitate to talk to your pediatrician about toileting as well. So that is it. I wanted to leave time for questions and comments. My email is up on the screen, so if you want to connect individually about your child's toileting, feel free to email me. Thank you so much for attending. I hope you have a great day.